Welcome to Cheat Sheet Tales, where secrets slip, lies unravel, and the truth always has a twist. Real stories, raw confessions, shocking betrayals. Drop a comment if you've ever caught a red flag. Too late now. Let's get into today's tale. My girlfriend found the hidden voice messages on my phone. She stood in the living room, her face pale, her hands shaking as she played each one. "You've been telling me lies since the beginning," she said, her voice cold and steady. She walked away without looking back. But the last thing she said left me wondering what she was planning next. I live in Portland, Oregon. I'm 34, been working in IT for the last decade. I had a steady life, a decent apartment, and a girlfriend named Sienna. We were together for almost 5 years. Everyone thought we were solid. She's 32, works as a speech therapist, smart, sweet, loyal, honestly, too good for me. Last winter, around December, I met someone at a party my friend threw. Her name was Leah. She was behind the bar, serving drinks, and we got to talking. Nothing flirty at first, just talking about music, movies, stupid stuff. She had this energy to her, really easy to talk to. And after a couple drinks, I gave her my number. I told myself it didn't mean anything. It started small, a few texts, then a phone call here and there. I told Sienna it was just a new friend I met through a coworker. She didn't question it. Things picked up fast. By mid-January, I was seeing Leah once a week, then twice. I started lying about working late. I'd go over to her apartment and pretend I was stuck at a client's site. It felt exciting, like I was living a double life. Every time I came back home to Sienna, I felt guilty but not enough to stop. Then Leah started leaving voice messages. "Wish I could fall asleep in your arms tonight. I miss your hands on my back. You make me feel alive again." I saved them. I don't know why. Maybe because I liked hearing her voice when I was alone. I didn't think Sienna would ever find them. I kept them in a locked folder on my phone, something I thought she'd never open. She never snooped, but I messed up. 3 weeks ago, Thursday night, we were watching a movie, just a normal evening. I made pasta. We ate on the couch, and she had her legs across mine. She was scrolling on her phone. While I got up to use the bathroom, I left mine on the coffee table. That was the moment everything fell apart. When I came back, she was standing. The TV was off. Lights still low. She had my phone in her hands. Her face, it didn't look angry. It looked blank, like someone hit a reset button in her brain. She looked up at me and said, "Who is she?" I froze. I literally couldn't move. My heart dropped straight to my stomach. She didn't wait for me to answer. She pressed play. The first message came on, loud and clear. Leah's voice filled the room. "I had the best night with you. I'm still sore from what you did to me." Sienna didn't say anything. She just hit play on the next one. And the next. And the next. Each one was worse than the last. My face was burning. I didn't know whether to run, to fall to my knees, to scream. I said nothing, just stood there like a goddamn statue while she played them all. When the last one ended, she looked at me. Her hands were shaking. Her lips were pale. She looked like she was going to pass out. But when she spoke, her voice was calm, steady. "You've been telling me lies since the beginning." I tried to say something, anything. "Sienna, it's not what you think." She cut me off. Didn't raise her voice. Didn't cry. She just turned around, grabbed her coat, and started walking toward the door. Before she left, she paused, looked over her shoulder. "I'm not going to scream. I'm not going to beg you to explain. But I promise you this, you're going to know what it feels like." And then she was gone. I haven't seen her since. I've tried calling, texting, nothing. It's like she disappeared. But I know Sienna, she's not just walking away. She's planning something big, and I can feel it coming. After she left, I stood there for a long time. I didn't move. I couldn't. I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. The silence in the apartment was the loudest thing I ever heard. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept checking my phone, thinking maybe she'd call. Maybe she'd scream at me, curse me out. Something, but nothing came. I tried calling her 5 times. No answer. I left 2 voicemails. Said I was sorry. Lied again. Tried to say it didn't mean anything. Begged her to come home. Still nothing. The next day, I went to her sister's place. Dani had stayed there once before when her dad was sick, so I figured maybe she'd gone back. Her sister Tasha opened the door. As soon as she saw me, her face dropped. "You've got some nerve coming here," she said. I asked if Dani was inside. She said, no. I asked if she'd heard from her. Tasha crossed her arms and said, she told me everything. Don't bother trying to find her. I tried to say something again, something dumb, like it was a mistake, or I didn't mean to hurt her. She just laughed. She's not going to ruin herself crying over you, Tasha said. You should be more worried about what she's planning. I felt a chill go down my spine. What does that mean? I asked. She didn't answer. She just shut the door in my face. I drove home in silence. That weekend, I kept thinking she'd show up. Maybe scream, throw something, burn my clothes. But it didn't happen. Instead, weird things started. First, my boss called me into his office on Monday. He said someone emailed him. Screenshots, messages, voicemails, time-stamped, very personal stuff. He didn't fire me, but he told me to take a few days off. Sort your life out, he said. Then on Tuesday, I found out my mom had gotten an anonymous email too. She called me crying, asking if I'd really cheated on Dani. Said she didn't raise me to be that kind of man. I told her I didn't know what was going on. I lied again. Of course I did. I told her Dani was overreacting, that it wasn't that bad. By Wednesday, 3 more people had reached out, told friends, a couple coworkers, even my landlord. Someone was sending out those voicemails one by one, with little comments attached. This is who he really is. He lies to everyone. Thought you should know. That's when I knew Sienna wasn't hiding. She was coming for everything, and she'd only just started. By the end of that week, I stopped leaving the house. People were looking at me different. Neighbors I used to joke with barely nodded anymore. One of the guys in my building, Gary, who used to talk football with me, just stared when we passed in the hallway. Asterisk, no words. Just that same look everyone was starting to give me. Like they knew. Because they didn't know. Sienna was making sure of it, but it didn't stop at voicemails. One morning, I checked my work email and saw over a dozen password reset attempts from unknown sources. Then my personal Gmail started acting up. My bank flagged suspicious activity. Nothing stolen, but someone was clearly trying to get in. Same with my Facebook. Same with my LinkedIn. Whoever it was had enough personal information to try hacking everything I had. I knew it had to be her. Sienna's not some tech genius, but she's sharp. She's methodical. She'd watched me type my passwords 1,000 times over the years. It wouldn't take much. And still, I couldn't prove it. I didn't want to involve the cops. What was I going to say? My ex is hurting my feelings. No one was breaking any laws. Not yet, but then the box showed up. It was sitting on my doorstep when I got home from trying to talk to a friend who had already decided to cut me off. A plain cardboard box. No return address. Inside all the stuff I'd ever given Dani over the years. Every birthday card. Every photo. The concert tickets I bought her for her 30th. A hoodie she used to steal when she was cold. And taped to the inside lid of the box, a screenshot of a message I'd sent Leah. She's clueless. She still thinks I'm working late. Written in Sharpie underneath it were 4 words. Now it's your turn. I threw up in the kitchen sink. But it got worse. 3 nights later, I heard a knock at the door. Around 11:30 p.m., I checked the peephole. No one was there. I waited. Looked again. Still nothing. Then I opened the door and saw it. Spray painted in black on the wall, across from my apartment. Liar plain. Big, right, where everyone in the building could see it. I called maintenance. Tried to lie again. Teenagers, I said. Must be random. But they didn't believe me. One of them said, you might want to think about moving. Man. People talk. I'm losing everything. One piece at a time, not just Sienna. Not just Leah, asterisk everyone, but the scariest part, I still don't know what else she's got planned. And I can feel it's not over. After the wall was spray painted, I started getting paranoid. I changed all my passwords. Turned off location tracking on my phone. Even bought a second phone with a new number. But I still felt watched. Then, about a week later, something happened that hit harder than anything else so far. My dad called me. Now, my relationship with him has always been rocky. He's a military guy. Very black and white about right and wrong. We haven't always seen eye to eye, but we've kept a polite distance. Talked during holidays. Kept things decent. He called and said, we need to talk. His voice was flat. Cold. He said he got an envelope in the mail. Inside, printed transcripts of the voice messages. Photos of me and Leah. Screenshots of the texts. And a letter, handwritten. It started with, Here's the son you raised. He didn't yell, he didn't curse, he just said, "You disgust me." And then he hung up. I haven't heard from him since. But it didn't end there. A couple days later, I got called into a meeting with HR at work. Someone had emailed the CEO directly, again with all the messages. Photos, the whole mess. Said I was representing the company while lying, cheating, and manipulating people. It wasn't illegal, but it was bad enough. They put me on probation pending a review of my conduct. They made it clear, if one more thing came out, I was done. I started to spiral. I hadn't talked to Leah since this all began. She'd stopped responding to me after Danny found out. I figured she was scared, embarrassed, or maybe Danny reached out to her too, so I tried to see her in person. I went to the bar where she worked, sat in the back, waited. When she saw me, she froze. Then she walked over and said, "You need to leave." I said, "Just 5 minutes." She looked around, lowered her voice, and said, "You don't get 5 minutes. Sienna already told me everything. She showed me who you are." I asked, "What did she show you?" She said, "Stuff I didn't even know about myself. Stuff you recorded." That's when it hit me. Sienna must have gone through everything, not just the messages. The voice memos. Old texts, notes I kept on my phone, even the one time I joked to a friend that Leah was a nice distraction from the boring life I was stuck in. She found it all. She gave it all away. I left that bar and went home shaking. That night, I drank until I blacked out. Woke up on the bathroom floor. My phone was filled with new notifications. Unknown numbers texting me things like "scumbag," "karma," "hope she ruins you." One text just said, "Almost there." I don't know what Sienna's endgame is, but I know this, she's not done yet. And honestly, I deserve every bit of what's coming. A few days after the HR meeting, I got a certified letter in the mail. No return address. Onside was a printed copy of a restraining order filed by Sienna. It wasn't criminal, but it was serious. It said I wasn't to contact her, directly or indirectly, again. She marked a box that said she feared retaliation or harassment. That one hit hard. I hadn't tried to contact her since that night. Not really. A couple texts and voicemails in the first few days, but after that, I kept my distance. Still, it made me realize she wasn't just exposing me. She wanted me erased. By then, the whisper campaign had turned into a storm. My landlord gave me notice. Said someone in the building made a formal complaint about the spray paint. Claimed I caused an unsafe and emotionally unstable environment. He looked uncomfortable when he told me. Said he was sorry. I didn't argue. I packed a bag and stayed in a hotel. Meanwhile, my account started changing. Venmo, PayPal, even my Amazon orders. I noticed odd things showing up in my purchase history. Books about emotional abuse, gaslighting, one titled How to Spot a Sociopath. Some were shipped to my old apartment, some to my office. I never ordered them, but I knew what this was. She was building a pattern, a story, a digital trail of who I really was. And she was winning. Then one night, I went to visit my mom. She'd calmed down a little since that first call, said she wanted to hear my side. So I drove out to her place. When I walked in, she handed me a folder. Someone had left it in her mailbox. No return name. Inside were printed out text threads, hundreds of them. From me, from Leah, even from old flings I hadn't talked to in years. Somehow, Sienna had pulled all of it. Every dirty joke, every secret plan. Every time I'd said something I shouldn't have, at the top of the folder in big letters, it said, "Truth." Feely stared at my mom. She just looked at me and said, "How many people did you do this to?" I didn't have an answer, but I knew one thing. Danny hadn't done this alone. She must have had help. Maybe Tasha. Maybe someone from her job. Someone was helping her organize all of this. Pull records, piece everything together. She had a whole system, a whole plan. And I still didn't know how far it would go. I went back to the hotel that night and sat in the dark for hours, and that's when I realized I wasn't scared of being caught anymore. I was scared of being forgotten. Because that's what she was doing. Not just exposing me, she was erasing me. One piece at a time. By the end of that month, I wasn't living. I was hiding. I moved to a short-term rental on the edge of Beaverton, 30 minutes from Portland. I didn't tell anyone where I was. I stopped posting on socials. Deleted old accounts. Got a new phone. I lived off fast food and anxiety. Barely leaving the place except to go to work. And even that felt like walking. through a minefield because Danny had turned my life into a slow collapse. But then she shifted tactics. The next wave wasn't about what I'd done. It was about who I really was. She started sharing parts of my past that I hadn't talked about in years. Things I told her in trust. Private things, family stuff, a rough fight I'd had with my younger brother that ended in us not speaking, an ex who had once accused me of manipulation but never went public. Now all of that was online. She created an anonymous Medium page. She never named me directly, but everything in it pointed right at me. The Portland tech guy. The guy with the perfect smile and a backup girlfriend. The one who told me I was the only one, while keeping notes on how to lie better. Every post was another layer peeled back. I started getting emails from strangers. Some were cruel. Some were sympathetic. Some were women asking if I'd done the same to them. Some just said they were watching, reading, judging. Then a new one came from a woman named Nina. She said she dated me back in 2017. Said she saw the blog and recognized me immediately. Said she wanted to help Sienna add more details because, in her words, men like you count on silence. I didn't even remember Nina at first. Then I looked her up. She was someone I went out with maybe 4 or 5 times. Ghosted when it got too serious. I didn't think I did anything that bad. But apparently, to her, it was enough to join Danny's cause. They were turning my entire dating history into evidence. I kept hoping someone would come to my defense. Maybe a friend, a relative, even Leah. But no one did, because no one could. They either knew I'd done it, or they didn't want to be pulled into the mess. Then the final blow landed. My company let me go. Official reason: public image concerns and internal discomfort among staff. But I knew what it really meant. They were scared of being next. That was the day I finally cracked. I sat on the floor, shaking, thinking about every choice I'd made, every time I lied. Every time I looked Danny in the eyes and told her she was the only one. Every woman I'd ever used, ghosted, cheated on, lied to. And I saw it for what it was. I wasn't just being punished. I was being unmasked, piece by piece. But it wasn't over, because the one person I hadn't heard from yet, the one voice still missing, was Danny herself. And I knew she was saving something big. The worst part: I deserved it. A few weeks after I lost my job, I got a letter from a lawyer. At first, I thought maybe Sienna was suing me, maybe for emotional distress or something. But when I opened the envelope, it was worse. It was a cease and desist from a woman I hadn't heard from in over 6 years. Harper. We dated briefly when I was 27. I ended things badly. Told her she was too intense when the truth was, I had already started seeing someone else. I thought she'd moved on. Turns out, Danny had reached out to her too. Apparently, Harper's therapist helped her recognize how my behavior had triggered some of the worst parts of her anxiety disorder. She was demanding I stop sharing any content that could be traced back to her, which I hadn't. But that didn't matter. She was protecting herself. And I could see Danny had found another one of my messes. Another woman I hurt. Danny was doing something I never expected. She was building a network. She wasn't just seeking revenge. She was creating something like a quiet survivor circle, one where I was the common thread. Then came the podcast. A local true crime style series started dropping episodes with titles like The Portland Pattern, The Digital Liar, Voicemail, Confessions. Again, no names, but I wasn't stupid. I knew I was the subject. They even played altered clips of my saved voice messages. My words. My voice. People at coffee shops were talking about it. I saw someone listening to it on a bus, laughing. Someone else in line at a gas station said, "That guy's a straight-up sociopath." I had become a local cautionary tale. The anxiety was constant. I stopped sleeping through the night. I stopped checking social media. My inbox was a mess of threats, questions, strangers asking for interviews, others telling me I'd ruined their belief in relationships. I wanted to run, just leave Portland, change my name, start over somewhere nobody knew me, but I couldn't, because Danny still had one move left, and she played it on my birthday. That morning, a package arrived. Small white box. No label, no sender. Inside was a flash drive? No note, just the drive. I plugged it into my laptop. It contained a video, one I had forgotten even existed. A selfie video I took during a work trip 2 years ago. I was drunk in a hotel room, bragging into the camera, laughing, saying things like, "She's so clueless." I could tell her the sky is green and she'd believe me. I named Sienna. Called her boring. Said she'd never do better than me. I watched myself on that screen, and I felt sick. That video hadn't just been saved, it had been edited. Sienna cut in images, screenshots, text threads, even Leah's face, Harper's name, Nina's messages. The whole timeline, it ended with a black screen and white text. This is what he does. This is who he is. The next day, that video was everywhere. Reddit, Instagram, TikTok, even YouTube. Over 500,000 views in 48 hours. I didn't leave my apartment for 4 days. And then the police knocked on my door. They said someone had reported a possible welfare concern after I missed 2 rent payments and hadn't responded to emails. They asked if I was safe. I said yes, but the truth, I didn't know anymore. Because the woman I betrayed had taken everything from me piece by piece, and she still hadn't said a word to me directly. That silence, it was the loudest punishment of all. And somehow, I knew she wasn't finished.